Hello, amazing investors. It's a beautiful day here. Came on my walk here, and on my way back, I couldn't stop thinking about this because this was actually a question that was posed by one of my viewers, and really she had a genuine question around, well, and I had said this in one of my videos that your past doesn't repeat itself, or history doesn't repeat itself. Unhealed history repeats itself, or unhealed past repeats itself. If you hadn't connected those dots, by the way, we all have history. Your history is your own story from the past, and human history or group history, collective history is our the story of a group, the story of an ethnic group, the story of a country, the story of human beings. And at the macrocosm is the story of human beings that we all talk about. At the microcosm is your own story. Hello. And at the macrocosm level, human beings are trying to heal and move forward. We're trying to grow. We're trying to learn. And just looking at the world events, you can tell very clearly that there are a lot of things we need to learn. There are a lot of things we need to get over, such as violence, war. And I don't look at violence completely as negative, but it is a part of our life. War is a part of a human life. There are a lot of people that are getting affected around the world based on all sorts of weird things that people do for profit and gain in the short term. And a lot of people are in power, and a lot of these people have a lot of trauma, a lot of challenges, a lot of things that they're struggling with internally. They might not be in the way that most people think evil in the normal sense of the word, and they might actually be evil people. I don't know. But at the microcosm level, your own story, it repeats itself because there's an unhealed aspect of you. So what does that mean? Think of somebody who has jumped from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship, gets married to one person, the next person, the next person. And after every relationship, he or she points the finger at the other person. Oh, it was that person's fault. Or think of a person who keeps moving from one job to the next job, and you always hear the same thing. It's like, oh, this manager was an asshole. This person was an asshole. This team was horrible. This culture was horrible. At some point, both of these people will have to confront the fact that they are the common factor, and that is a very hard thing to confront. In fact, that's a very painful thing to confront for a lot of people. So why did I say that this is a controversial topic? Well, and I'll try to put all these ideas, bring them all together, because there's a lot in here. And I've had many conversations with therapists and coaches and psychologists of all kinds. Wow, this guy almost hit me. Of all kinds about this. And what I've learned is that it's not so clear cut from a scientific standpoint how to approach human beings and how to help them. And here are two schools of thought on this. I mean, there are a lot of schools of thought on this, but two major schools of thought, both on the coach's side and therapist side. Mostly, and I'm going to speak more to the coaching industry because that's the industry that I'm in. I've been in this for the past decade. And what I've learned is that a lot of people don't really, sorry, there's two guys are distracting me. One of them almost hit me with a bike. Let me just move forward this way. What I've learned in the past decade is that there is an underlying assumption, especially coaches who are, like I said, two types of schools of thought. One is coaches who are, especially coaches who are trauma-informed, but there are also therapists who are trauma-informed. And my general recommendation would be is always work with a coach or a therapist who is trauma-informed. Whether that means you're trying to work through a part of your past or you're trying to move forward. Both of these individuals need to be trauma-informed. Why? There's a very simple reason. There's a lot of update in the research around this, that trauma does play a major part in the way people move forward. So the old model, which is the old model, that's the other school of thought, is that, oh, trauma doesn't matter. You can always move forward. So take massive action and just move forward. Take action and go in the positive direction. You'll be just fine. Don't worry about your past. That's like saying that, you know what, just you have grass growing around you, forget about the weeds in the garden, and just focus on the grass, and there will be more grass in front of you in your garden. No, actually the weeds need to be dealt with, and the weeds are the trauma for a lot of people. And most people have no idea how to process it, how to think about it, how it's actually affecting their life without them even noticing it. And it shows up in very odd ways, and people think that that's just normal for human beings. Now, I won't go into the details of that, but like I said, as a general rule, work with a trauma-informed coach and therapist, and I am one of those. But here's the downside of working with a trauma-informed coach or therapist. They come with their own assumptions that I think are pretty ridiculous. And all they are assumptions, even at the highest level, those who have even researched this for a long time. And they don't have any way of proving this assumption either. So here's the assumption. The assumption, and it's such a subconscious, underlying assumption that's been taken for granted that everybody thinks it's the truth of how human beings are, and it's not. And why do I know this? Well, I know this through my experience, and I know this through working with hundreds of people over the past decade. And here's the assumption. The assumption is that human beings are too fragile to deal with some of the most traumatic experiences in our past. And here's how it shows up in coaching sessions or therapy sessions of all kinds. If you didn't know, there are coaches who are trauma-informed coaches, and they're trauma coaches. And it's a weird gray area. They're sort of doing therapy, but they're sort of not. They're approach is still to move the person forward, but they do go into the past. They do help you process things, and there are therapists in that area too. Now, to make matters even more complicated, there are therapists who are coaches and who use both models. And the way you can look at it from an industry point of view is that therapy is what taxis used to be, and coaching is what Uber is. Now, at some point, both of these sides have to join forces, because they're using their aim is the same thing, to help somebody move forward. Now, therapists are more past focused, coaches are more forward focused, but they will clash, or they will come together in a part of their life. And many of my clients have therapists. Many of my clients have gone through a lot of therapy. Many of my clients have different kinds of coaches. So I don't have anything against therapy. And in fact, that could help you. That has helped me in the past. But some of the coaching models have actually overtaken therapy in many ways. Another story, another conversation. But coming back to the point here is that, again, just reiterating, find a trauma-informed coach. But again, back to that assumption that a lot of trauma-informed coaches and therapists have that doesn't help people, is this assumption that human beings are too fragile. If I go certain areas, I could completely break down their mind. Now, part of that is lack of skill sets, I believe, and part of it is an underlying assumption that they're not even aware of. Here's how it's shown up. So often I'll go through usually this shows up in one of my first calls with a client who will reach out to me, who will say that, you know what, I have, and not everybody, but some clients are like that. I've gone through all this therapy, this coaching, I'm looking, and somebody will refer me to them. I'm looking to get to the next level, but I feel like there's a part of me that's still stuck in the past, or that I'm still working through. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I'm usually open to walking them through my process to see if I can help them or if I can connect them with somebody. I actually have a team of coaches who are trauma coaches on my team who are incredibly, they're amazing. I'll send some of my clients for 2, 3 sessions, 6 sessions, and they will have gotten more results from that than a decade of therapy, because their knowledge and experience is updated to the current research. A lot of therapists are stuck in the past models. A lot of coaches are stuck in the past models. So I have those team members on my team that can support me. But as an initial conversation, I will usually have this session with the client who's saying they're stuck. And almost always I'll ask them, all this work that you've done, has any coach or therapist taking you to that moment of trauma? To that moment that created all this. And by the way, there are 2 types of trauma. There's big T trauma and small t trauma. I believe that was coined by Dr. Gabor Mate. And the big T, I'm talking about the big T trauma, which could be child abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be emotional, sexual abuse. It's something that has left a very big imprint on that person's behavior, emotions, and thoughts. Now, there are also a small t trauma. The small t trauma is like things, it's more of a rule than an exception for most people around the world. It could be that your parents weren't present with you and you felt disconnected or never felt the attention and love from them. That could create a small t trauma. And not disconnected, not present in the sense that they weren't physically there, but they weren't emotionally and mentally there with you. You never felt like anybody was fully there with you. That could create small t trauma. Now, a lot of people, most people have that kind of trauma just by the nature of how human beings have survived, lived, and you can track the pattern back to how in the industrial age, how parents started becoming more and more busy with work and careers and all that stuff, and kids were kind of left to the corner. And I still don't believe that parents should leave their kids aside for daycare and school system to grow up, to help them and bring them up. It's your responsibility as a parent to do that. But many parents don't have a choice, or they make the wrong choices, or they think that it's more worthwhile for them to build wealth versus be there for their child. But it can leave a lot of negative effects. Again, another story, another topic discussion. So let me come back. I know there are a lot of background stuff. By the way, if you want to read about or learn about trauma-informed coaching or how things affect your day-to-day life, and you probably have trauma and you don't know how to deal with it, or you don't even think that it is trauma. So look into the research by Dr. Gabor Mate. You can look into his book, When the Body Says No, or the recent one, The Myth of Normal, and probably considered one of the foremost experts in the field. That's a good place to start, and then you can go into other resources around it. Okay, so let's circle back. I know I'm taking you around all these areas because it's important for you to know. So let's say you're trying to, original question from one of my viewers was, can I move forward without healing the parts of my life that need to be healed? My general statement to that, and this is why the old model of not being trauma-informed doesn't work, is that no. There are certain things you need to deal with before you move forward, because what you have to define what moving forward is to begin with. Most people think moving forward is achieving some kind of financial or business success. When you actually look at people who are business oriented, one of the things that gives them motivation is actually their trauma, their lack of ability to notice something in their life. What does that mean? That means that many high achieving people, many ambitious people, you notice one of the reasons that they're driven to be successful because they have a need internally that was not met in their life. Now that's one model of thinking about it. Of course, there are other factors in there too, and they're not even aware of it. But here's the thing. That's a good thing. You would think that, well, their trauma is making them successful, financially, and in terms of their career success path. Great. That part is good. And I think that's a good thing to keep. But here's the downside. The downside is because they get so hyper focused on that they don't notice that they've left their children, their family, their well-being behind. And you can boil down a lot of the quote-unquote success of high-achieving, ambitious people who have sacrificed, burned their life to the ground, and sometimes they romanticize that too, is that, well, I sacrificed, my success had to come with a sacrifice. Not anymore. I think that's bullshit. I think you can create success in your life if you're thoughtful about different parts of your life. You don't have to sacrifice your health and your relationships and well-being to do that. In fact, to help people do just that. If you're still operating on the old model of, well, I need to be a billionaire or a millionaire and I have to sacrifice my marriage. Sorry, that was an uphill. I have to sacrifice my marriage. I have to sacrifice my health. I have to sacrifice my sanity to build some financial wealth. First of all, that's pointless. Everybody knows that. Second, that's a very old way of thinking about it. With the technology we have, with the awareness we have, with the opportunities that are available through online and other models of business, you do not have to do that. And not everybody wants to be a billionaire, multimillionaire. Even if you want to be a multimillionaire, you can do it a little bit slower, but not sacrifice the most important things that you have in your life. So there are certain things you need to deal with, but here's the thing that I don't like a lot of people who jump into the world of trauma is that they end up, I'm going to set for a second, they end up thinking that for them to move forward, they need to heal everything. This is where the other camp I think is better, and they're thinking that sometimes you focusing on the trauma will make the trauma bigger. So what does that mean? Yes, deal with the major aspects of your trauma to move forward. It means that become more functional. As functional as you can be to move your life forward. And then the rest of it is a lifelong healing journey. Now, I have the big T trauma. I have a lot of traumas inside of me, generationally, personally, and I'm aware of it, and it affects me. It affects my ability to communicate, my ability to connect. It affects my ability to move forward at times. But I've learned a lot of tools to deal with it. I confront it, I work through it, I process it, I don't suppress it or repress it. I don't think I'm doing that. But learning tools to process trauma is actually a very powerful, empowering thing, because you might have your trauma for the rest of your life. Now, you can't wait around. Life doesn't wait around for you. Your relationships are not going to wait around for you. The economy is not going to wait around for you. You still need to work. You still need to run a business. You still need to be connected to people. So if you're waiting for your trauma to be healed, you're going to wait for the rest of your life. In fact, you might never heal from your trauma. In fact, you might have to leverage your trauma in a positive direction, because there are positive aspects to your trauma. In fact, one of the most powerful things Dr. Gabor Mate has said around this, one of the most foremost experts on trauma, is that what if your trauma is the right thing that happened to you, or the thing that needed to happen to you? And that's a very powerful question to ponder, because a lot of people are trying to get rid of their trauma. So no, you cannot just move forward, because you will end up going in a direction that will be destructive for your family, for your well-being, and a lot of things. And yes, you can move forward as long as you've dealt with the major things and you become aware, you develop some tools to process it on an ongoing basis. And yes, continue to get support for even your small T trauma. I always do. I'm always on a growth journey. But it doesn't mean that you need to wait around before you move forward. But you might not know how to deal with your trauma. It might be constantly showing up in one form or another. One day it will show up in your personal life. Another day it will show up in your business. Another day it will show up in the way that you think. And you keep running into these problems. Like, well, I can't seem to move forward in my business. I can't seem to connect with the people around me. I don't know why I can't just build relationships. I don't know why I can't meet the right person. I don't know why I can't sustain relationships. I don't know why I can't sustain my business. Well, guess what? There's something that is a blind spot, and more than likely that's connected to an aspect of you that you have not explored. So if that's important to you and you have not explored it, like I said, I'm a trauma-informed coach, but I'm also a certified high-performance coach. My goal is to move you closer to your potential. I'll work through with you with a lot of tools, and I have team members that are actually trauma coaches that will help you. But please don't work with coaches who are not informed about the current research and practices, and they have to get trained on that to be a trauma-informed coach. And also don't work with trauma-informed coaches who think that you're so fragile that they can't help you. And a lot of times when I go into areas with my clients where a lot of other coaches and therapists have not explored, I'll go through one session, they'll feel like they just went through 2 years of therapy. And that's their words, not my words. Or they will work with my team for 3 to 6 weeks, and they will think that, holy shit, I wish I had found this a decade ago. A lot of the older models of therapy are not working, and there are better models. Find it. A lot of older models of coaching are not working as effectively. So connect with the right coach. Like I said, I have the right team. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, you're looking to move forward and you feel stuck in some areas, let's talk. Just type #support and I'll be happy to reach out to you. And at the least, I can give you some resources and connections for you to move forward. Hopefully this was helpful. I know I went roundabout ways with this, but there's a lot to cover. In fact, I paused myself from covering a bunch of stuff. This would have been like a 2-hour conversation. And maybe I'll do this on my podcast as well. But on a longer podcast episode. Hope you have an incredible day, and we'll talk soon. Bye. And also, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? How have you worked through your trauma? Are you even aware of it? Or you think that this is complete bullshit? I'm open to any perspective, because this will help everybody. Take care, you all. We'll talk soon. Bye.